Hi everyone, it's Cathy Zielske. Welcome back to my YouTube channel. Today I've got a fun card project featuring a stencil used two ways. I am all about stretching the supplies that you have on hand, and today I'm going to use a stencil to add some ink and I'm going to dry emboss. I love dry embossing, and if you haven't tried it, it's a simple way to add some fun texture. So let's take a look at the products I'm using. The stencil that I'm using does come from a brand new Gina K Designs kit, and here are some of the stamps from the kit, which is called a Big Hello Card Kit. This card kit is huge, and I absolutely love all of this greenery and the cute little cheeky sentiments and the plants themselves. This is just one big set that's part of a larger kit. Also, today I'm going to be using some Gina inks here, and I will have everything listed below the video that I am using if you want to check out the links. Got a little blending brush. I'm going to use a couple different types of foam adhesive because I want to create some dimension on my card. I've got some of Gina's fine detail white powder, one of her single stitched ovals that I'm going to use today on the project, and here is the stencil that comes in the Big Hello card kit. Love this little heart pattern. I've got some Copic markers as well that I'm going to be using to color, and then for cardstock today I've got some innocent pink cardstock from Gina, a little bit of Vellum, and some Neenah Solar White. So I'll use a few other things, but let's get started on the card. The first thing I'm going to do is stamp out this image of I think this is the basil plant. I'm going to call it basil, but I'm going to stamp it down with some amalgam ink. And I want the amalgam ink because I'm going to do some Copic coloring, and it is a Copic friendly ink. I'm hitting it twice. The beauty of the Misty, if you don't get a great impression the first time, you can stamp it again in the same place. And now it's time to color. And I do want to point out that this particular video today is not to show off my coloring skills. I am still learning with Copics. I don't get very fancy. I don't do a lot of shading. Today on this pot, I knew I wanted to have more of a pink pot instead of like a brown or terracotta. So I came at it with I think it's the R00 from the outside of each part of the pot because I wanted to create that sort of white reflection because I've seen people do that. Now, the jury may be out today as to whether or not I actually nailed it or didn't nail it, but that aside, it doesn't stop me from trying things that I've seen in videos or trying to color in general. My Copic marker collection is growing, and I need to stop being so intimidated by these markers and just bust them out in color, because coloring's kind of fun. And with all the stamped images that are out there, I'm hopefully going to encourage you, you don't have to be great. I'm not a Copic master, but the pot's going to look just fine. Now, I did go back over that little white area very lightly because I just thought it looked a little stark. So we're coloring that over. Pot is done. I wanted to show you this. I have been slowly replacing the chisel nibs. My brush is still there, but the chisel side, I've been pulling them out and replacing them with these fine tipped nibs. And I will link to the video that I recently shared talking about this. But the reason why is because small things like this, these tiny leaves, they're hard for me to color and stay in the lines with the brush tip because I always just put too much pressure down on that brush and go outside of the lines. But these little tips that you can replace for your sketch markers, they help me to stay inside the lines. And even though my coloring on these leaves is not top notch, it's just not. It is what it is. But it is, they're leaves and there's green, and I'm proud of what I accomplished. The little nibs do make it easier for me. So I'm going to take this whole approach with these three greens and just do the rest of this plant off camera because I think you kind of get the idea, right? Okay. Once that's done, I'll take the coordinating die and run that through my die cut machine, pop it out. I didn't cut it perfectly, but it's going to be fine for the project. While the machine is out, I'm taking one of Gina's ovals. This is from her single stitched ovals collection. Running it through this card panel that has been trimmed down already to 3 3/4 by 5, because what I want to do is emboss this. So I'm going to take the heart stencil and set up the sandwich for embossing. I've got my pad placed down, the plates are taken out. I'm lining up that pattern so that hearts are evenly distributed, covering it with the embossing plate and running it through, and it presses that stenciled pattern right into the paper. Isn't that pretty? Love it. Next, I'll prep my card base. This will be top folding 5.5 by 4.25, which is a US A2 designation. But I'm not going to fold it yet because I want to apply some ink directly onto the card base with the stencil. So I'm taping it down just to hold it into place, grabbing a little brush here, going to load this up, but I need to be mindful that I don't go all the way to the edges because I really want the ink to be contained in an oval shape in the center. So I'll just gently start layering in this color. And I thought the Innocent Pink looked really good with the Copic colors that I used. And I'll just keep double checking it to make sure we're not going too close to the edges, but I can lift up my stencil, place that down, and I decided to hit it with just a little bit more to fade out on the edges. And now the stenciling is done. I will let that dry completely, and then I'll fold it down, grab my Teflon bone folder, and just give that a press so that I have a nice fold. And I like to tape my card bases closed while I am adding all of the final elements just so it doesn't pop open. Just like that. Next, I'm going to stamp a little sentiment on a piece of vellum. This says, "I'm rooting for you." So I will get that on my Misty door, and then I will bring in my little embossing magic pad and just run that over the vellum. Ink it up with the sticky embossing ink from Gina K, and press. I think I pressed a little too hard, but I'm going with it. It's going to be just fine. I'm going to sprinkle on some of Gina's fine detail white powder, and then tap off the excess, and then just wipe off any excess that's stuck, and you can see a little bit of powder there, so wipe that away. And then I'll get my heat tool nice and hot, and it melts really fast on the vellum. All right, I'm rooting for you. I'm going to take some Gina K dot runner and put it on the back of the stencil, the debossed side, if you will. Because what I want to do is trim this piece of vellum down a little, line it up, and have this overlay the plant, just like this. And I'm going to kind of futz with it a little. I use my mat sometimes to really help me line things up. And once that's lined up, I'm going to add some of Gina's foam tape to the back of the card. Now this tape has a thicker depth than the other foam squares I'm going to use. So that way I've got this depth and then a thinner depth on the foam squares on the back of the plant. So I will adhere this into place, take the backers off of the plant as well, and then just slide that behind the little vellum. And that's it. That is the finished card project. So you can kind of see how fun that is to have the heart pattern in the background and then also the embossed pattern on the cardstock as well. It just adds a little repetition and a little texture and dimension to the card project. So be sure to take those stencils that you have and don't just use them for applying ink. Get some texture out of them for your next card project as well. Thanks so much for watching today. I would love to have you become a subscriber to my YouTube channel. And if you do subscribe, be sure to hit the gray bell below the video so that you don't miss the next time I post. Here are a couple other videos that you might be interested in watching. Thanks so much and have a great day.